I'm glad I'm going to make this. I got up at 3:30 today. When I get up at 3:30, I will not think straight at all throughout the entire day. And when I was debating on talking today, as soon as I turn my phone on, I mentioned this yesterday, there's a Google notification right before you swipe the phone. Bill due in one day by Google, 4,300 and something dollars we are going to charge your Wells Fargo account. I swipe that thing and it's not an email, because then I go right to Gmail and there are ads from Google, culinary, this, that. For whatever way they have targeted me, because I've been in a war with Google and YouTube, somehow somebody from Google either hacked into my account. The only recent thing I bought online was from Microsoft. I use Google Drive, but I only bought something from Microsoft, which was, I think, called OneDrive, which are that video uploads. So somehow, Google and CNN and YouTube and all, they've been in a war with people. And I mentioned last week that they did a strike on one of my YouTube things, which I challenged. They removed the strike. It gives me the sense that there are people, both within CNN, within YouTube, within Google, and some of these are younger people, that these were the ones that YouTube hired from the Southern Poverty Law Center. And these people now have been given access to your accounts, meaning, I'm not sure. I went to Wells Fargo yesterday, but the notification is tomorrow they'll bankrupt me. I have about 800 in my account. But we're going to charge you 4,300, and it's a Google. When I went to Wells Fargo, I told them yesterday about it. I said, look, there's something showing up on my phone. I said, I want to make sure. But they said, well, we can't do anything unless there's a charge that goes through. So whoever is scamming me, and that's an official Google. And so what I see in this society, I see a constant, when we get to the chapter in Ahab, which is coming up in Kings, I was going to review my teaching video, but I got a few days on that one that's coming up. But what's going to happen is Ahab is going to want a property from a man by the name of Naboth, and they're going to set him up and say, get two sons of Belial, his wife Jezebel says, and have them make false accusations. And when I get to that chapter, I think the nobles of the city of Jezreel, who offered this man Naboth up with these two fake people that lied, and they stoned him, put him to death, I think they bear responsibility. We often don't focus on those two figures, those who are familiar with that chapter. We often don't focus on the leaders of Jezreel. Out of fear and pressure, they killed that man, Naboth, so Ahab could get his vineyard. It's an amazing thing that Google, it was on my phone just now when I turned it on. You will be charged $4,300 tomorrow. And it's not a Gmail or an email. And then you swipe it and there's Google ads, culinary, you know. It's somebody in the company that sees that I have a war going on. And they've managed somehow, of course they all have your phone number and stuff, they managed somehow to get that on my phone every day. What a disgrace. What an utter disgrace. I look at these investigations of people that have agendas, meaning on national levels and all. And I see people with, if I was investigating you, and I said, look, this is up front, we're not doing, and then you found that I was writing all types of stuff against you. Like, man, this guy has to be taken out, this guy has to be removed from office, we got to do everything we can. And so what I see is like sons of Belial. I don't care what your politics are. I see people that becomes their motivation. They learn how to take down people, whether it's people from an Enron company or unjustly. But as long as we get those guys in prison, they put 6 of them in prison. Mr. Rod Rosenstein did that. And every one of those were overturned. The courts ruled that Mr. Rosenstein did unjustly and found crimes that were not considered crimes. But at that stage, they were indicted and convicted. They felt they did their job. You know, I'm fixing my vehicle, and it didn't really play on me, but I was thinking about it. If my vehicle had to be parked in front of my house, because I have a garage, I can pull it in, but if for whatever reason it was just, man, it's not running, and I'll park it in my driveway, that's illegal to do in the city of Corpus Christi. I'm kidding you not. The other day I went into Walmart, and there was a pickup truck parked in Walmart. And the pickup truck said, I think it was about code enforcement. He had a big sign on the back of his truck, that he got it made at some sign place. It said, enforce the code enforcement laws equally in this city of Corpus Christi. And I don't know who that guy is. Enforce all the laws equally. What happens in Corpus Christi? About a year ago, these are all things I talked about before, but you had code enforcement, which is run by the police department. And they came through our neighborhood called Turtle Cove, and they put notices. There are notices from the police department that if you don't fix whatever violation it is within 10 days, they put a lien on your property. And once the lien is put on your property, if you went down and said, wait a minute, it's up to them. At that stage, you're embroiled in a repossession of your home. Even if it's paid off, and even if your taxes, which are very high here, that's what that person with the thing on the truck probably was alluding to. And I'll just give you this example. If my vehicle, which you've seen on some of my videos, if it was just, oh, I can't fix it, I'm going to leave it, and it's in my driveway, that's considered cause for the city to repossess this property. And what they would probably say if they watch this video is, well, we would work with you. Look, you don't have people going to relocate and buy and invest in an area, and then they say, well, is it possible you would repossess a $10 million home because we found a tire that was flat on a car or whatever? And they would say, well, we'll work with you on it. No, they need to know that up front before they get involved in this thing here. And that just came to my mind because I have a friend. I've talked about him before, but he is in that battle right now. I took him to get a lawyer last year. The battle hinged on trying to get him to tear down a pier on his property. There are personal things going on between him and people in authority within the city of Corpus Christi. And so now they challenged him to tear his pier down. He lives off of the water. But he also had vehicles. And I'll grant that he had a lot of vehicles on his property, but it's like a big property. And so the city had come out years ago and said, your property is in code violation. We're repossessing your $200,000 oceanfront property. And he had to move every vehicle. They were over 25 years old, so they didn't require, he registered them as antiques, I guess. He had to move them. They came out. They watched them move forward, move back. Okay, move forward, move back. And then they went out. And now he has 2 notices. He showed it to me about 2 weeks ago because he knows I talked about this. But they are the violations of the pier that he has. So he's been to court back and forth. Like I told you, I took him to get a lawyer last year. And then he showed it to me last week, 2 weeks ago. John, look at this. There were 2 subpoenas to show up in court. Now, all of this is over, grass, weeds. One of them was weeds were too high. Legal action, possible imprisonment if he doesn't show up over weeds. And the 2 notices he showed me a few weeks ago were 2 different court dates for the same thing. And one of the inspectors that came out lied on the report. That's why he showed it to me. That inspector says, "Oh, I went out. I think it was a lady. Said I went on his property and I found this and that. He has video cameras like I do. She never went on the property. He didn't allow them to come on without a subpoena. So she just lied on that paperwork. Now that might be a minor thing. Well, we knew there were. You're talking about taking citizens and possibly charging them criminally. So the two subpoenas he got were to go to court for the same violation on two separate days. You got to show up one day and then a week later. It was a mistake that the county court made, a municipal court sending a subpoena. So he went. He's trying to resolve this. He's fighting the city. And he went the one day and he showed it to the judge and said, "Look, this I'm here today, but then they also want me to come back like in 2 weeks for the same thing." And the judge said, "Oh, I never saw anything like that, but you better show up because, you could be arrested." Now, you're talking to people that are living normal lives, working or whatever they're trying to do, invest, and then that person, no criminal violations, code enforcement, shows up, spends his whole day, and then the judge looks at him like, "Well, you better show up for both of them." People don't have time to do that, especially over stuff like that. And it just made me think. I said, if I had to keep my vehicle in my driveway, not broken down or anything, if the inspection sticker expired on it at a certain time, that's enough cause to get that notice from the police department that your home will be put under a lien in 10 days. Unbelievable. 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 Whoever Google is showing up on my phone, this thing, tomorrow you will be bankrupt. Tomorrow we're charging you. It's some scam. Somebody with this Google YouTube thing. What a disgrace that they do that. What an utter disgrace that they do that. I would be satisfied with just walking. I'll start walking again. But they're doing that whole thing on the $4,300 charge. Somehow they falsified something. And it's coming up every day. Just when I swap my phone. You will be charged tomorrow. 1 day left. We're going to bankrupt you. And it's some scam they're doing. And I believe that, do you think official companies are doing things? Yes, I do. Because I realize it's why you're seeing me upload on Vimeo and these other sites. Because once I realized YouTube basically had people working in there that were targeting. They weren't just running a company. And I'm small time, and for them to have found, oh, this guy's talking about God, let's strike him. Give him a strike. It showed me, oh, you're untrustworthy. And that's Google, by the way. It showed me you guys you're out, you're aggressively out, carrying out particular types of views, you politically, and you're trying to take people down. So when we get to the Kings, this is the first one. I didn't want to get up at 3:30, and it's whatever, it's almost 6 now. And I try to resolve this thing on my phone. Tomorrow, 4,000's coming. And I told my bank yesterday, I said, look, there's something on my phone showing up that there's going to be a charge from my Wells Fargo. Well, we can't do anything about it until you get a notice that you're... there's ads also that'll show up on my laptop showing like properties. Because I looked at like condos and apartments with New York City view. When I was looking at New Jersey news a few weeks ago, I just clicked it. It showed up as an ad. And so those are legit. And it's showing like condos, new ones they built where I grew up, but like the view of Manhattan and New York. And I thought, there's homes right now on Padre Island, which is right over the bridge down the road from me. And these homes are taxed at the same tax if I bought something small, but the same tax with me having a view of New York City. And they're charging, particularly on the island. We just shelled out $2,500, $2,400 cash just to pay taxes. With that code enforcement explaining that to you, and you feel like, man, why am I even wasting all that money? Knowing that you could be targeted for various reasons, and they'd just put you on the street. And then my other friend, over a code thing, possible imprisonment if you don't show up. Maybe they sent him those double subpoenas for the same thing for 2 separate days, just to see maybe he'll show up for one. They want to arrest him. They want to arrest him. Not over drug addiction, not over criminal act. They want to arrest him because they had a feud with him. Progressive City. So this is the first one. I might try the YouTube, I'm not sure. I'm going to upload this right now. And we'll just begin this day. We'll just begin this day. You know, when those people, I had 2 vehicles come up yesterday and just park. You know, many years ago, there were two people armed that were going to rob somebody. And the person they were going to rob was not armed. And the plan, however they worked it out, we're going to jump this guy, we're going to rob this guy. And that person was unarmed. But because of self-defense, he punched them, one of them. But if people are armed and threatening you, and you're not armed, you don't just punch somebody. And in order to save yourself, and anybody could do this if they had to in self-defense, but you just throw a very hard punch and hit them right there. You collapse their trachea, and they die. I don't recommend that unless you're thinking somebody's coming to you with a gun and a knife. Then that would be the way you would do it if you're unarmed. And they could charge that person, oh, you murdered somebody, but that's a self-defense thing. Now remember that. I just remember that story. And I say, you know, people are out. People are out. Trolling. Google has, I'll tell you, that is so true that came on my phone again. And it's an official notice from Google. We're going to charge your checking account $4,300, and it started 10 days, 9 days, 8 days, 7 days, 6 days, 5 days, 1 day left. And that is Google and YouTube breaking every law under the sun by saying, what's that guy going to do? How is he going to track us? Somebody YouTube hired political activists who believe, some of them are of the liberal side, that they believe you should imprison people that speak out. Some of them held that view, and these people are running these organizations. So we'll get this word out, and we'll see what happens. Okay? God bless everybody.